Hey Ed, this is a initial video I'm creating for you to get us started with Excel. I'm using Excel 2016, by the way. Um, I planned a spreadsheet here to go over with you when we sat down, and so I'm kind of winging it here with the video. So I'll try to get through as much as I can. You can gather your questions, and I can answer them when we sit down. But basically, Uh, a spreadsheet is like an electronic piece of paper. I'm not sure of your level of history and experience with Excel or your knowledge level, but I'll sort of go from a basic level. So a spreadsheet is used to keep track of things. The most common usage is keeping track of numbers and creating charts and things like that, doing some data analysis from numbers. So almost any kind of data can be tracked in a spreadsheet. And um, if you'll notice, I'm in a blank, what's called a worksheet inside of an Excel workbook. So these sheets make up a workbook, and these are worksheets. Okay, they're easy to create. You see my mouse down here in the bottom right is over the plus sign for a new sheet. Okay, it'll create one of those new tabs. You can double click on the name of the tab and pretty much call it anything you want. I'll put your name in there. That's your name. That's the name of the tab. So basically, there's almost nothing you can't track inside of a worksheet. I'm going to start with some basic data right here. People typically keep track of things like I've got some sample data here just about movies. You can see these entries are in cells. Okay, this is like text information, this is date information, this is numeric information. So there's all sorts of different things. And in the spreadsheet, you can control the row height, you can control the column width of these blocks of information. And by the way, a single cell is referred to as a range as well. And a range could be one cell, could be two cells, could be a whole bunch. If I hold down the control key on the keyboard, it could be, discontiguous cells. So those are selected, and I can copy them using the toolbar here. I can say copy that range, go somewhere else, and then paste that range. And I can do a Control Z on the keyboard to undo. Okay, so it's basically for keeping track of information. Okay, there's lots of little tricks on the way I'll try to throw in too. Like, say I've got a bunch of columns where, see, the text here spills over into column H. I can select the entire spreadsheet by clicking the top left cell here and double clicking with my mouse cursor over one of the borders between a cell, right now between cell B and C. Double click, it'll adjust every column to be just right to fit the size of the information inside that column. Okay. So I got a quick syllabus here that I created for a sit down. So you basically, create a new worksheet, new workbook, start entering data either by copying from the clipboard or entering it from scratch. You can also import data from an external source like a text file or a CSV file, lots of other ways. So I've gone over that. It'll over time get yourself used to the formula bar. This is actually the formula bar here, and that'll be a good thing for you to do. The home, these are tabs on the whole bar up top here is called the toolbar, with different tabs with different features and functions in those tabs. You'll get used to that over time. Feel free to play around with it. Going back to the home tab here. Another thing you'll notice, when I mentioned that a spreadsheet is an electronic piece of paper, basically, meaning you can do formulas, which is one of the most powerful things in Excel. So I can use the spreadsheet as a straight calculator. I can say formulas and calculations start with the equal sign. So 10 plus 10, right, is 20. That goes in the cell. And over here I can say equals this cell, right? So this cell is I5, right, which is column I, row 5. You can always see where you are by looking up in this little control box in the top left there. It tells me I'm in I5. Now I'm in J5, I'm in J6. It always tells you where you are up here in the top left. So now that I have a formula in M5 that says in the formula bar, whatever's in I5, put in M5. Now watch what happens when I change the formula in I5. And by the way, one of the multiple ways you can edit data in cells is by hitting the F2 key on the keyboard, which puts you in edit mode. I can say plus another 10. So 30 goes in I5 and 30 goes in M5 because cell I5 is a calculation, 10 plus 10 plus 10, and M5 is a formula that says give me whatever, return to me whatever's in cell I5. So I hope I'm not going too fast for you here. I'm just trying to cover things sort of in a horizontal way first before we can drill down on any one of these individual things together. So another typical use for a spreadsheet is to say, okay, in this table of data that I have here, right, which is moving inventory data, and what I have highlighted here is the table itself, the table of data, and it's arranged in columns and rows. So all of the titles are in column B, the dates are in column C, and so forth. Say I wanted to know the value, the total of all these values in column E. There's a couple ways to do that. One is a straight formula. I can say, again, equals. All formulas and calculations start with equals. I'm going to say equal cell E5 through, I'm going to hit the semicolon, I'm sorry, the colon key. See colon. I'm going to reference down to E8. Okay. I'm going to close the parentheses and I actually should have, let me do that over. I should have started with an open parenthesis. So I'm going to start over. Equals E5 equals semicolon E5. I'm sorry, equals left parentheses E5 colon down to E8. Close the parentheses. Okay. So actually, let me go back again. Really, what I really meant to do is say equals. There's a calculation or a formula called sum. Close open parentheses. E5 colon down to E8. Close the parentheses, and there's your total. So see the formula? It's a common formula called sum. Right? So I'm summing the range E5 down to E8. That's one way to do it. Another way I could have done that was I could say plus E5 plus E6 plus E7 plus E8. You get the same number, 34. All right? I'm going to hit the delete key, get rid of that. And again, another way to do our formula here, you look up in the toolbar in the Home tab, there's a little shortcut formula that's for the sum. It'll automatically guess what I want to do, but I want to sum E5 to E8 and just do that. So that's some quick review of the sheet and how you enter things and what you can do with the information. I went over ranges, column manipulation. You can another thing you can do in a spreadsheet is format data in numbers. So I can select this and say I want that bold and I want the font to be red. So there's lots of things you can do there. Another little quick shortcut to formatting is by holding down the control key and hitting number 1 on the keyboard. So control 1, and it'll format that cell that I'm on. You can format it any way you want. You can format it by date. For instance, these numbers here, I'll select a range, right? E5 to E8, Control 1, format, and I want that to be in some kind of number format, and I want 2 decimal places, like that. So I'll change that. Okay, so there's lots of ways to format the data that you have in the spreadsheet any way you want. There's also something called conditional formatting, where you can apply format to a range of cells depending upon what's in the cell. So watch, I'll go to the home tab of the toolbar, conditional formatting. I'll create a rule, and I'll say if the cell value is more than greater than 8, format that cell with green text and a green box around it. And I'll apply that rule to that range of cells, and you can see only the 2 cells that meet that criteria, that condition, get formatted that way. So there's lots of things you can do there. So again, you're mainly going to be entering data and applying formulas and calculations to that data. Another thing you can do, a typical use of data, you can again highlight that table. And by the way, that range that I've highlighted, I can give it a name. So I can call this range, watch in the top left there, movie inventory. Okay? And I've given that range a name. These values I can highlight, give that a name, right? I can name that range, that collection of contiguous cells. I can call it movie price. I'm giving that a name. So that makes it easier. I can go anywhere else in the worksheet and say equal. I'm going to put, that means I'm going to put a formula in, the sum of movie price. Instead of saying E5 to E8, give me the sum of movie price. And there you go. You can see in the formula bar, instead of referencing cells, I'm referencing the name of the range. Okay, so that's another basic thing in Excel, is naming ranges to make them easier to use in formulas later on. Okay. Another common use, you may have seen this in Excel. Again, I'll highlight my table. I'll say I want to chart or graph that data. Okay, so I'll go to the Insert tab of the toolbar and say I want to do a chart, right, of that data. Okay. Let me do that one more time for you. It didn't do the right thing for me. So highlight the data, insert chart. I chose recommended charts. It'll guess for you what you want. I'll pick that one and say okay. Now I could chart this data from scratch, but I used the toolbar to try it for me. So it guessed that I wanted to know per movie what are the values or the prices per. And you can do a lot of manipulation of this chart later on, but you can see this chart as an object. I can move it around. I can size it. I can copy and paste it. I can do a lot of things. So that's another common thing you can do, is create charts based on your tables. And this is a table of data I have highlighted. I'm going back to the syllabus. So I talked about types of data, formatting data. Another common formula in Excel, in addition to sum, is the if formula, which returns data based on a condition. So I'm going to say, I'm going to start with equals always, if I'm going to say if a name that I ranged, movie price, is greater than 7, yes, otherwise no. That's the format of the if function. If you give it a condition, and then after the comma, this will happen. If it's true, this will happen. If it's false, okay? I just want to give you the format first, and I'll do another one. I'll say equal if cell E5 is greater than or equal to 5, which it is, put yes in the cell, comma, this is what will happen if it's not true. No, it is not. Close the parentheses. Boom, you can see yes, right? So look at the formula up here. It says if E5 is greater or equal to 5, put a yes in the cell. If not, say no, it's not. So again, this spreadsheet is an electronic piece of paper. If I change this to 4, this cell automatically changes to no, it's not. It's always looking at E5 and doing an evaluation. So you can see the power of the spreadsheet. There's lots and lots of things that you can do. You can track large amounts of data, and do some other sophisticated things, which we'll hopefully get into. I'm just showing you the basics right now. So there's another basic formula called count. So you can see in my table, right? So I'm going to say equal count the number of cells in E5 colon E8, that range is 4, equal count edit movie price 4, right? That range has that name. I'm going to say equal count all cells in the range that have data in it from B1 to B17, right? 6. So in this whole range of B1 to B17, how many cells have something in it, an entry in it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those are some common functions or formulas: count, count A, if, and sum. So that's like the first lesson. I don't know how much of that for you is review. Maybe you already know this stuff, but that's just a starter set of information for you of just the very basics of Excel. Obviously, it gets more advanced, and we'll get a chance to talk about those things over time. So review this as many times as you need to, just to get some of the basics to get going, and we'll talk more about it later on.